Hello, hello. Happy Monday.
What's happening, Brian?
Not too much. I had a good weekend. I went for a hike.
A hike?
Yeah,
Is
just
anybody
one.
do that where you live?
Absolutely. Well, I do. You know, there are trails all over the place in East Tennessee. Now, admittedly, there are a lot of unhealthy, overweight people here who don't do a lot of hiking. Um,
Well, one thing I'll say, everybody, Duluth, Minnesota has a reputation, well deserved for cold and everything else. But one thing I'll give these people is they absolutely embrace it. Duluth has been voted like best outdoor city in the country a few times. People get out and enjoy it. There's lots of trails, lots of stuff to see. So
nice.
whatever else I may say about the locals, one thing I will give them is they do embrace the outdoors.
Get out on that hike. Oh, don't you know?
Yeah, right on.
Right on.
My Texas friends and family don't believe me when I say it, but it can be 0 degrees outside. And if it looks like it does today with blue skies and everything else, you really don't feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. Although, okay, bizarre, I actually did go for a very, very short run this morning. It was 38 when I woke up this morning. Okay. Yeah. For you, that's nothing. But for here, I mean, it was like 80 yesterday. I mean, that range is pretty crazy. And we're not on a giant lake, so I don't think we're gonna have a ton of people today. I moved the meeting around. It's my own fault. So we're just gonna run with what we got. I am particularly excited about today. Hi, Kristen. How are you doing? Um, So I will start out by saying the goal today for me is to talk about the specific tools that I use for running my business as a solopreneur. And for people who have been doing this for a while or have been an entrepreneur before, you're going to have heard a bunch of this already. However, it's always interesting to hear how different people do it. And my hope is that there'll be some little gem in there. I have been an entrepreneur for I guess I could say 50 years. Yeah, sure, I was five when I started, sure. But I'm still learning stuff all the time. So that's the goal here. And I will say this again later, but I'm going to say this now. I am not a lawyer. I am not a CPA. I am not a tax guy. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. So for better, for worse. Okay, so let's share my screen here. Share, share. And get this out of the way, and off we go. So in the past, I talked about specifically how to conduct networking, how to, as a consultant in a fractional, how to get business by networking. I talked about the specific mechanics of it, like the tools I use. I talked about um, networking specifically with the C-suite, because there's a little bit of a twist to that. And then the last talk that I did was talking about engagement size, length, style, contract style, kind of strategic level stuff about running your business. Today, this is more about tactics. Okay, so moving on from there. I already gave Mill a warning. I'm an amateur. Moving on from there. So business entity. Um, the default that everybody has a business is the sole proprietorship. It's easy. The company's money is your money. It's you don't have to keep it separated. You get taxed the most, and you have no liability protections whatsoever. And that's usually how everybody starts out. Um, an LLC is a limited liability company. It is not a corporation. If you do it right, gives you some legal protections. However, probably a lot of people who don't pay attention and have a little startup LLC don't actually do it right, and it doesn't give you the protections that it could. So if you want to go with an LLC, great, but actually do some research and find out how to run it. You actually have to run it separate. You need separate accounts. You need to treat your company. And I've never had an LLC, so I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm just saying, look it up. I went straight for an S corp. An S corp is there's a bunch of different kinds of corporations. An S corp is kind of the easiest one to set up. That is a real entity corporation. It does two things for me. The reason why I decided to do an S corp is number one, again, if you do it right, then there are some liability protections. So theoretically, if someone sued my company for $1 gazillion, theoretically they couldn't take my house. The goal of their attorney would be to pierce the corporate veil and try to take my house too. So you need to pay attention to that. It's not a magic thing that if because you have a corporation you're protected. That's not how it works. But it can if you do it right. The other thing is for me, there are significant tax savings as having an S corp, and the reason is with an S corp you have to do payroll, which is a major bummer. I hate doing payroll. However, you can pay yourself a minimum payroll. Like when I say minimum, I mean as little as you can get away with if you get audited by the IRS. The IRS is going to say you have to pay yourself a real salary. That being said, if it's a company that's not making a lot of money, then it's pretty easy to make the argument that the company can't afford more salaries. Now, the goal here, the reason why I say minimal is on the payroll, you're paying uh, uh, the full taxes on that. You're paying payroll taxes, you're paying into Social Security, you're doing all the stuff that normally happens. However, the portion of your profits that aren't paid to you as a salary, you can do as an owner's draw, and the tax ramifications are lower. You're also having less money go into your Social Security. So if you think there's going to be money for you when you retire, there might be less. Of course, some of us aren't sure there's going to be any anyway. But those are the three most popular types for solopreneurs. My S corp, um, the first one I set up was like almost 30 years ago, and it cost me like $2,000 with an attorney to set it up in California. Um, I set up another one when I moved to Tennessee 4 years ago. That cost, and again, I hired an attorney to do it. It cost me about 1,500 bucks. Again, all of this money totally made back in tax savings. However, I found a company that'll set a S corp up for you for like 300 bucks, and I'll talk to you about that more. Moving on from there. So that's corporate entity. Books. Okay, the default for small business people is QuickBooks, like by far. Everybody uses QuickBooks. And there are advantages to QuickBooks. QuickBooks, I mean, the good thing about QuickBooks is that every bookkeeper, every accountant, every tax guy, they're totally prepared to deal with QuickBooks. Um, but the downside is it's QuickBooks. I don't find QuickBooks particularly easy to use. I don't claim to be a bookkeeper, but I don't like it. I also think that it's kind of expensive. They moved everybody over to the online version. I think almost everybody has to use the online version now. You might be able to get away with using the local version, but in my opinion, that's a way for Intuit to extract more money from you. They also do fun things like charge you for updating tax tables, things that are like nothing to them, literally cost them nothing, and they'll charge you for it every year. So I'm not a big fan of QuickBooks, although I used it for years and years and years. Um, I have a friend who's not using books at all. Now, it's a small company, but he just like has a Google Drive that he throws receipts into, and he basically a digital shoebox. And he does the same thing with email receipts of things for all of his business expenses. And now I think this is the first year he's done this year. Now, this guy is very adept at AI. And he basically had an AI agent go in, go through all of his email, go through all of his Google Drive, organize all of those receipts for him, and do the pre-work for filing taxes. And then he did his taxes, and he probably used TurboTax or something. But basically, he had this digital shoebox that he had AI agents organize. I am way too much of a control freak to do that. I can't handle that, and I'm not recommending it. But I did think it was interesting that some people are doing that. What I do, I use a solution that Zoho offers. I use Zoho Books. I like it because it's cheap. It is, to me, way more intuitive than QuickBooks. I'm able to figure it out myself. Again, not being a bookkeeper. Um, It is a company that's, I think, based in India. Um, I don't know if that matters to you or not, but I have not had any problems with support. As a matter of fact, I have had gotten support from them and it's been good. Um, the only catch with using anything other than QuickBooks, or I don't know, do people even use Peachtree anymore? Those were the two biggies. The only negative thing about that is that, again, your bookkeeper, your CPA, and your tax guy aren't going to be set up to deal with Zoho Books. They may have heard of it, but they certainly don't use it a lot. So when I switched to this, I went and talked to my tax guy. I'm like, so, hey, I hate QuickBooks. I want to move. What do you think? And he's like, hey, Brian, I actually know my business. So I don't actually have to have a file from QuickBooks. You can just give me a P&L and a balance sheet at the end of the year, and I know how to do it based on that. So if you actually have someone who knows what they're doing, any sets of books at the end of the year should be able to give you a P&L and a balance sheet. So that's been working for me. So that's what I'm doing. I've been very happy with Zoho Books. I've been using it for years now. I also use it for payroll. I'll talk more about payroll in a minute. But I'm a big fan of Zoho, and they're cheap, and it's 100% online. And I did at the time check out the security, and I felt like it's as secure as anything online is. I mean, like everything can be hacked, but that's true for QuickBooks Online too. Next,
Hey,
payroll.
uh,
Yeah, jump
Brian,
in.
can I ask you real quick on the Zoho books? Are you using the free, the standard, the professional?
I am paying. I didn't even know there was a free. Um, I
It
don't
just
know
says
which
get
version.
started, but so I don't know how limited it is, but there's standard, professional. It's 15, 40, and 60 is.
My guess is I'm using standard. If we talk later,
Yeah, sure.
I can check for you.
Okay.
I've been very happy with it. I also there's an add-on service to do payroll. So let's talk about payroll for a minute. The cool thing about having a sole proprietorship is that you don't have to do payroll. Like company's money is your money, it's all the same, and it doesn't matter. Um, However, when you have an S corp, and I'm not sure about LLC. Like I said, I've never had an LLC, but S corp, you have to do payroll, and for one, it's a total pain. And my local bookkeeper tax guy has no interest in doing payroll for one person. There probably are a bunch of online services that will do it. I didn't research that far because when I realized that Zoho Books will do payroll for an added fee, I'm like, okay, cool. And in the past, when I'd had QuickBooks and I'd actually had a bookkeeper working for me, we did payroll for a bunch of people and I didn't have to think about it because the bookkeeper did it. So they were filing taxes and sending out forms and doing all this stuff that I didn't have to think about. And I assumed incorrectly when I was using a payroll service through like Zoho Books, for example, but I assume Intuit's the same way, that they would just do all that stuff for you. They don't. They give you the numbers, they tell you what to put on the forms to send in. And then I have to run around and set up accounts with the state and set up accounts with the feds and go in monthly and quarterly and theoretically know all of the forms you have to fill out. And I suck at it. I have I have always paid everything on time, but I have not sent forms that were supposed to go along with the money. And I like a couple different times now have gotten irritated messages from the IRS saying, we have your money, it appears to be the right amount, but you didn't send the right form. And that's super frustrating for me. So again, I have a better solution for payroll that I will talk about in a minute. But that's what I'm doing for payroll right now. Oh, that's the better solution right in front of you on the slide. Employer of record. So I'll talk more about that. Basically, there is a way, there are a bunch of companies out there that will hire you. You can hire yourself. Basically, you hire this company like a temp agency, and they hire you. So you are officially an employee of that other company. Your company, my S Corp, hires them as a contractor, and then they turn and hire me as an employee. So that way, now I can just 1099, pay them like a contractor, and they pay me. And again, I'm still in charge. I still tell them how much I want to get paid and how much I want to set aside to for withholding and all that jazz. But I now officially, starting the first of this month, no longer do payroll. It's like super awesome. Yes. Clap, clap, clap. I'm very pleased with not having to. I hate payroll. I mean, you know what the biggest thing is for me? It's not that it's hard, it's that I know that I'm not good at it and that I'm unsure, and that's why I hate it. Um, okay, so taxes. Make enough money so it makes sense to hire somebody to do your taxes. That is my recommendation to you. If you're making decent money, hiring a tax person should save you money. It shouldn't cost you money. So I have had somebody do my taxes for me for a long time, for years and years and years. I used to do it myself, and I have never used TurboTax. It is super common, super popular. Probably works really well if you use TurboTax, or excuse me, QuickBooks, because it's the same company. Intuit owns both of them. Um, but my personal choice is to hire a tax professional. Um, I pay my tax. I don't make a ton of money, so it's not super complicated. I think he does my business taxes for like 500 bucks a year, and he does my personal taxes for like 400 a year. So I'm paying him like, again, that's Tennessee prices. It's probably more Kristen in California. Sorry. Um, but that's what I do. It works really well. And I assume most tax guys will do this. Seeing that I pay him to do that, when I have questions throughout the year, I'll email him or call him and he'll answer them because I'm his client. So, and he doesn't specifically bill for that. But it's good to have somebody that I can ask questions, and I do. So that's that stuff. Healthcare. Okay, this is how I found my. I told you I started doing payroll a different way the first this year, but the reason I started doing that is because I was looking for a health insurance solution. So health insurance is expensive. I was paying for my wife, myself, and my daughter 750 bucks a month for health insurance through the end of last year. But starting January 1st, a lot of the subsidies expired, which puts me in a weird place because I think it's good for the country to have those expire, but I think it's bad for me because my health insurance went from 750 bucks a month to $2,300 a month for the same exact coverage. So I was looking for a solution. Now, before I talk about the solution, which I did find a good one, and I'll share it with you, I want to talk about the kind of health insurance that I got. And I've had this for years and years and years. I have intentionally low premium, high deductible health insurance because I'm smart enough to save money for when I need to pay those deductibles. If you are not smart enough to have the money for the deductibles, like saving money you would have paid for premiums, then don't do it this way. But I trust that all of you are smart enough to do that. So the advantage in there's two advantages in having a low premium, high deductible health insurance plan. Number one is the numbers generally crunch significantly overall, being cheaper doing it this way, regardless of whether you're super healthy or super sick in the year. Either way, yeah, go ahead, Scott. Nope. Okay, that wasn't for me. Um, So that's one reason. The other reason is if you have these low premium, high deductible accounts, they usually qualify for something called an HSA. HSAs are super cool. It's a health savings account. And with an HSA, what it means is usually, I think the numbers are around $8,000 per person. So it's 8,000, 16,000 for my wife and I. Don't quote me on those numbers. Look it up yourself. But you can set money aside that's pre-tax to use to pay your deductible. However, I was doing it wrong for years and years and years. I am now doing it right. HSA, the coolest thing about an HSA is don't ever spend it. Set the money aside, put it in there, and then use other money to pay your deductibles. Because HSA is not only is it pre-tax money, which means you're not paying taxes when you put the money in, but is the only tax shelter that also you don't pay taxes on it when you for anything that you gain, your gains over the years. If it's in there for 30, 40 years, all of those gains aren't taxable. And when you pull it out, no taxes. Now, when you pull it out, you do have to have documentation for all of your medical expenses that you've had over the years. So I am doing the receipt thing for every single medical expense. But they call it a triple tax advantage. And there is nothing like it. So absolutely max it out. I was actually putting the money aside and then spending it on health, which was what it was intended for, but that is not the best way to use it. So there you have it. So HSA. So I was looking for a cheaper way to do insurance. I had been doing insurance through the Obamacare. What's the other word for it?
Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, Affordable Care Act. Because it was like it was the cheapest thing. Even honestly, even when the prices went up, there wasn't anything better for me. But it got so high that I had to start getting creative. So let me hit my next slide, and I'll tell you what I found. Here's the issue here, okay? So we just ran through a bunch of different stuff. I didn't talk about 401ks. I'll hit that in a second. But S Corp, I explained why I do that and that it can, it can cost some money to set that up. Payroll, you have to do that if you have an S Corp. Again, I don't love doing payroll. Health insurance, the problem with health insurance was through the marketplace. That was the wording I was trying to look at. They have to take everyone, which is fine. That's actually a good thing. I like, I like that there's an option for people who have bad medical history. That being said, if you are in a group where they don't take everyone and they exclude some people based on history, it means there's an opportunity for you to have lower rates. So let me mention 401k real quick too. The cool thing about a 401k usually is that an employer will do some kind of a matching thing with you. Well, when you're a solopreneur, that's a non-issue because you are paying you. It makes no difference. However, IRAs, you're limited to whatever it is, like 8 grand a person, and to max it out. But a 401k, you can go up to like 40 grand per person. It's a like way, way, way higher number. So for my wife and I, it's like 80 grand. I don't have that much money to set aside. I am dreaming that I will. But again, for one person, it is way too much work, or I decided for me, it was way too much work to set up all of the garbage that needs to be set up to legally do a 401k for just me. So I never had one. So the solution for all of these challenges that I found recently is this company called Opolis. Now, I only started using them this year, and this does sound like a giant sales pitch, this like leading towards this, and I apologize for that. This isn't a sales pitch. But I am just so crazy happy about this that I absolutely have to share it with people. And yeah, I did sign up to get an affiliate, but it will throw me a couple bucks if you sign up. But I'm telling you, this is the best thing I've found. And I've been using it for a grand total of 20 days now. And I'm waiting for something to go wrong and nothing has. So what these guys do, if you don't have an S Corp, they'll set one up for you for 300 bucks. They are this third-party employer that I talked about before. So there's a bunch of companies that do it. This is the one that I found that I like. So basically, they hired me. I am a W-2 employee for Opolis. Opolis is a contractor of my S Corp. Okay. So they do their payroll. It's their payroll. It's not my payroll. I don't have payroll. My S Corp no longer has employees. I actually had to go into my books and fire myself. Um, they have group health insurance. Now, that group health insurance, you have to tell them about your medical history, which my wife and I both have pre-existing conditions, and they took us anyway. There will be people they will turn away, I guarantee it. But my wife and I actually have some relatively serious stuff, and they took us anyway. So there's a good chance that they'll take you too. My rates went, I was paying 750, they went up to 2,300, and now they're 1,400. So yeah, it was almost half of what I was paying at the max. It's double what I was paying before, but I'm happy with that. And it's the same thing. It's a cheap insurance, low premiums with a high deductible, which is what I wanted. And they have a 401k already set up. So if I have the money to contribute to it, then I can, and it's a much higher maximum. So I'm super happy with these guys. If you want to check them out, it's partner.opolis.co/Brian Petro. And I don't know if the capitalization matters. So if you want to know later, I'll email that to you. You don't have to use that. They will throw me a couple bucks if you do. I gotta tell you, for like the mechanics of running my business, this is a game changer for me. And I've been doing this for a long time. I've never seen, and they do charge you some fees, but they're low. It's like 1% of all the money that goes through. I am not paying them very much. In month one, I was way ahead of the game because of my just the health insurance savings were way ahead. And I don't have to do payroll anymore. So anyway, I like them a lot. Moving on, last deck here. Oh, money. So this is about how I take payments. The AI put together some weird stuff on this. This is kind of like old way versus new way is the way they said it. I don't buy that. I'll take money any way they want. I will totally take a check. However, I prefer Zelle. Um, so I right now I'm set up. Most of my clients will either cut me a check and mail it to me, or I am training them to pay me with Zelle, which I love because Zelle, there's no fees and it is instant. Well, usually instant. Um, that the only catch is that both your bank and their bank have to use Zelle, which most do. I also have taken money through PayPal. I've taken money through Venmo. I use Square to take credit cards. I started charging 3% for people paying by credit card just recently. And it's not because the fees are killing me. The fees aren't huge. It's because I want to try to move people over Zelle. I don't want those fees. That's not the goal. So when I rolled out the fees, I said, hey, I'm starting to collect these credit card fees. However, I would love for you to use Zelle instead and not pay those. And some people switched over. So those are my favorite ways of getting paid. Square is easy. This is in the old days, it was this huge, horrible hassle to get a merchant account and accept credit cards. And it just is not that way at all anymore. Um, Signing agreements. I mostly do it old school. I'll send like a PDF and ask people to print things out, sign them, and uh, and take a picture of it and send it back to me. Um, but I think that that does look a little cheesy. So I'm going to start switching over to using, I'm not going to use DocuSign. There's a bunch of options now. These guys I haven't started using yet, but I'm going to start testing a company called Signwell. Signwell will let you do up to 3 contracts per month free. And frankly, for most of us little solopreneurs, 3 contracts a month is probably more than enough. So that's what I do. That's what I'm going to start testing. But up till now, I've just done old school stuff, and that's been fine. The main reason I'm switching is not for security. It's because I think you don't have that client yet, and they're ready to sign, and I don't want to give them any reason to question anything. And when you send them a PDF and ask them to print it and sign it and take a picture of it, I think it looks kind of cheesy. So I've gotten away with it. I've been doing it for years, but I'm going to switch. That is what I wanted to get through. That was kind of like super fast through a whole bunch of the tools that I use behind the scenes. Let me kill my, how do I get out of sharing? Don't share anymore. I don't even see that anymore. You're stuck with the share for now. Um, but I hope that was helpful. If you guys have follow-up questions with me, please reach out. I think, like I said, even if you've been doing this for years, there's going to be some things in here that were slightly different than what you did. And I'll reach out. I'm probably going to do another talk in like another month. I'm going to wait longer than I have been. But I really appreciate your time. And I have to run. I have another presentation in 2 minutes. I did two back to. That's why I had to move this one. They were actually scheduled at exactly the same time. I blew it. So I'm going to breathe deep for a minute, and then I'll run into another one. I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you. If I can just figure out how to turn this off.